Good morning. Okay, welcome back. So today we're going to take the sponge that I made last night and let sit out on the counter overnight. And I'm going to use that to make my dough for my next sourdough loaf. So I also left my starter out overnight. And so this is the jar. And so you can kind of see it's doubled in size. And like I said, it sort of mixes itself. You can see it's all nice and bubbly now. And so this guy can now go in the fridge for the rest of the week. So I'm just going to put that aside. And also, here's my sponge that I made. So you can see it's nice and bubbly now, and it's also doubled in size. So what I've done, for the dough, you're going to need 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. I only have coarse salt, so what I usually do is I'll boil some water in the morning, and then I'll put about a cup and a half. So you need a cup and a half of water, and I like to use previously boiled water. And then I dilute the 2 teaspoons of salt in my hot water, and then I just let it cool to just above room temperature. So this here is a cup and a half, and I'm really dorky. I like to use my scale. So I've got this scale that I bought from Amazon, and I like to use a glass bowl. So I'm just going to put my bowl in there. I'm going to tare it. And so this is a cup and a half of water, which is about 360 grams, and the dissolved 2 teaspoons of salt. So I'm going to put that in my bowl. Okay. And then to that, I'm going to add my sponge. So taking a spatula, just scraping as much out as possible. There we go. Now I have one of these bread whisks, which I kind of find helpful. Actually, I don't really know. I just have it, so I use it. And I like to kind of just get this sponge or levain incorporated a bit into the water before I add the flour. So just sort of mix it around a bit. Okay. And then we're going to tare our scale down to 0. And now I'm going to add 500 grams of, I'm using bread flour. So for the feeding, I used all-purpose flour, and also to make the sponge, I used all-purpose. But for the dough, I use bread flour. It's best, Robin Hood best for bread. I believe it's white bread flour. Okay, so 500 grams. 500 grams is about 4 cups. So you don't have to use a scale if you don't want. Okay, there we go. So put that scale aside now. And all you just kind of need to do is just mix this around. And you don't really need to like over mix it. Just kind of get most of that flour sort of coated in the water. I'm probably using this whisk all wrong. And it might just kind of look a bit like shaggy and not really like a ball of dough, and that's okay, because the thing about sourdough is that it self-ferments. So throughout the day, you'll notice the texture of your dough change, and that's because it's fermenting during the entire process. So it kind of breaks itself down. And ultimately, it breaks the gluten down in the bread, which is why sourdough is a low gluten bread. And good for your gut. Okay. So I got the majority of it sort of, and if there's still some loose flour in the bottom, don't worry about it. We'll get to that later. But I don't like to waste, so I kind of like to get most of this stuff off of this spatula. And that's pretty much it. So I'll just show you what the texture looks like. So you can see it's not really like, it doesn't look like a ball of dough. It's kind of still sort of rough looking, but that's fine. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cover it loosely. I used to use my beeswax wrap that I use, the same one for the sponge. I'm just going to put it aside, and about half hour or so I'll come back to this and I'll perform my first set of stretch and fold. And it doesn't have to be like exactly half an hour. Sometimes I've left it for like an hour or sometimes 2 hours. It is quite resilient. But usually for the first set, I try to come back within like half an hour to an hour. So I'm going to go walk my dog and I will be right back.